See, the National Director of Priests for Life says this year could be the most important in the pro-life movement. One America's John Hines has more from Washington.
Father Frank Pavone, the National Director for Priests for Life, thank you for joining us on One America.
It's always good to be with you, John. Thank you so much.
Father Frank Pavone, I know that you're the National Director for Priests for Life. Of course, March for Life is coming up here, and this is a very unique March for Life. 49 years since Roe v. Wade. Can you share a little bit about your message here at this, what we could say is an historic March for Life this year? Talk about your message for this crowd of pro-life activists gathering in Washington, D.C.
John, our message this year is that the year ahead of us is the most important year in the pro-life movement, because we could be looking at a scenario where a lot of obstacles that have been in our way for 5 decades will be taken away soon by the Supreme Court. What are those obstacles? The court telling the states they can't protect the unborn.
This is Dobbs versus the Jackson Women's Health?
That's right, the big abortion case that they are reviewing now, and which could lead the court to say, sure, if the legislators, like they did in Mississippi, want to protect babies in the womb from 15 weeks forward, they can do that. Our message to the people coming, and through them to all the people back at home and throughout the 50 states who are involved in this movement, is that now we have more work to do than ever. Let's get to know our state legislators. Let's get to know the laws that are in place in our respective states, because the battle continues there, as it will also continue on the federal level. But
well, that's what I want to ask you about. The battle continues, you're saying.
Yes.
And this March for Life is probably the most unique in the history of the March for Life. And it's simply because you have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court.
Right.
You have this case, Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health, which could, while not necessarily overturning Roe, could essentially vitiate. It basically says states can make their own laws. So if the conservative movement, if the pro-life community has essentially a victory with the Supreme Court in this Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health case, will there be another March for Life next year? Will the pro-life community gather, as it has in Washington, D.C., on this famous date in the future? What happens, sir?
Well, as one of the key leaders in the movement, I can tell you pro-life people will continue to come to Washington. It's good for us. It's important for the movement. It's a message to America. It's a symbol of what is happening the other 364 days of the year. So we want to, and we need to, continue to speak to our federal elected and appointed officials, just as we will intensify the speaking we do to the state.
Will the date stay the same?
The date may not stay the same. Of course, there is what happens during these days is a combination of the activities of the March for Life organization itself, and their board, of course, will make the appropriate decisions of what they want to do, but it's also activity of numerous hundreds of other national pro-life groups coming together, as well as countless state and local groups. So speaking on behalf of the wider movement, I can tell you we'll continue gathering in D.C.
Describe a little bit about maybe the historic nature of this March for Life.
I've been coming to this march, John, since 1976. I was a high school student that year. I came to the 3rd annual March for Life. And over all these years, sometimes we have marched with the political wind at our back. And when the Republicans would be in the majority in either the House or the Senate, we would have, concurrent with the March for Life, some piece of pro-life legislation passed, and that would be a focal point for the gathering that we're having here in D.C. At other times, it was exactly the opposite. We would be marching, and the pro-abortion people would be advancing legislation of their own. This time, it's a strange combination, because we know we have a pro-abortion administration in the White House and in Congress, but we have, as we've been discussing just now, this prospect of a significant victory at the Supreme Court. So we're feeling both the opposition as well as the wind at our backs. And it's momentous in that sense.
Thank you for joining us on One American News, Father
My
Frank.
pleasure, John. Thank you.